Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today I am greatly honored to be the scholars from the edge of time. Nicholas Diak, Michele, Brittany, and probably Cecily if we're lucky.
Oh, oh, you can't see her. She's right here.
Hi, Cecily.
Greetings, Hercules. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to listening to your impressions of The Warrior and the Sorceress. It was a very strange movie, even in its time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we, we
and a lot of influences and things like that, which I'm sure we'll be discussing at length.
but before that, should we do some show and tell and catch up on news and stuff?
Sure.
All right, I've got big news to share. Like super big. Hold on. I've got a lot of show and tell. So the first thing is I want to show these off. This is the magazine New Edge Sword and Sorcery. So here's a Sword and Planet issue. Here's another issue. Sorry, that the camera's being weird. And then this issue, they just came out at the end of November, beginning of December. It's a magazine or journal or whatever that focuses on new sword and sorcery stories, literature, and nonfiction. But the editor had reached out to me late last year, early this year, and asked could I create some cocktails that honor different sword and sorcery characters to be featured in the
Oh, wow.
magazine. So each of these has a cocktail at the back that I made. So, for example, I don't remember which is which. So this issue has the Red Sonia, also known as the Scale Mail Bikini.
You must send me the recipes. I need to try these.
This one has sorry, the the Kai Lord, which is from the Lone Wolf books, and they even commissioned an artist to do illustrations on him too.
That is so great.
And the final one, they did a special Sword and Planet issue, and I think everyone's thinking I was going to go John Carter, but I did not. I went underground. I went with the Brax, which is from oh wow, that is so weird, that camera. Which is from Under the Warrior Star, which was an early Sword and Planet story that Joe Lansdale wrote. So, and I've been asked to do cocktails for their magazines in 2026, but so that's really cool. So, publication news, I get to be involved in a sword and sorcery project. So, really, really happy on that one.
That is so great. I'm looking forward to trying out some of the beverages that you've created and look forward to the day when people can go to science fiction and fantasy conventions and order them at the bar.
That would be cool. That would be nice. Let's see. I'm trying to remember. So the Red Sonia is basically a gin-based drink that has grapefruit in it. The Lone Wolf is basically a margarita that's spicy and green, and the Under the Warrior Star drink is basically a last word, but it uses a star anise as garnish, and that star anise is the titular warrior son. So,
Very
so
cool.
yeah. So punting to Michelle.
Oh, well, Nick got me for Christmas a special limited edition event exclusive of Rick O'Connell.
It's like a Funko.
Yeah, it's like a Funko. So it's from the Mummy. There's two versions. The regular hero one and then a chase one. So the regular one, he's holding a sword, and the limited one, he's got a rifle. So if as people remember the movie, he was part of the Foreign Legion, so he did have the gun. So in the box, because I didn't rip the zipper because I wanted to keep it pristine. They do have like a little keepsake card, and it shows that it's a limited edition and what number it is. And then I was able to cheat and open it from the bottom. And so this is what he looks like in
Oh,
his box.
wow.
So anyway, very cute. He's the regular one with the sword, which is honestly the one that I really wanted. So I was very happy about that. And so anyway, that was a gift that Nick got me for Christmas.
Yeah, it was a total like
It
3 days
was,
before Christmas, and all of a sudden I discovered this online. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta order that. Michelle will love it for Christmas.
yep, and I did. So going back to you.
I ordered myself one too, but they did one of Russell Crowe from Gladiator.
Oh, very cool. What other movies of a
Uh, you
celebrate?
know, I don't know. They're like Funko, so they're hitting all the pop culture stuff. So, the typical there's Universal Monsters, but I didn't see a mummy because I was looking for that one. I think there's some Five Nights at Freddy's and stuff. I think they're a new deal. I never heard of this company before, so I think they're just like, hey, Funkos are popular. What can we do that are like Funkos? So I'm assuming this is a new thing. But yeah, they
Yeah.
have like lots of movies. I think I saw a Beetlejuice one and stuff like that.
I have a Brendan Fraser question for Michelle. Uh,
Yeah.
I heard that they were doing another Mummy movie with Brendan Fraser, but there's so much with the AI. There's so much false information online, and fans can make like motion picture looking trailers now and use the actual actors. So, did you hear anything about that, or was that just an internet rumor?
Is that's a great question. I'm kind of holding still to till I see a lot more of it come out in the news because, like you, I think it was probably about 9 months ago that I saw a trailer and I thought, oh my God, Mummy 4. I was so excited and then realized that it was AI generated. So I'm gonna wait until I hear more, but it sounds like maybe it might be a real thing. I'm not sure though. But it sure would be great to see if they do actually do one. Obviously, a lot of fans would love to
Yes, I'd love it.
see another one. So hopefully this will actually get traction and there will truly be, another movie in the series. So
They can make a new Highlander movie. They can make a new Mummy movie.
yeah, why not? Yeah.
So
And
that's true, the Highlander movie?
pardon?
Does the Highlander movie, is that true? Because I saw the trailer for that also. I wasn't sure if it was
Yes,
real.
that is actually a true thing as well. It has Henry Cavill. He will be playing the Highlander. It, as far as I can tell, it seems like a retelling of the original Highlander film from the 80s that had Christopher Lambert, Clancy Brown,
Sean Connery.
and Sean Connery. Yeah. So I honestly love the original and really don't think we need another one. If anything, it would be nice to, do a new story, a new part of the universe or something. I think that would have been really cool and I would have been, just fine. But yeah, I'm not sure how excited I am about this. Everything was just right with the original. The music, I thought the actors were great. Just everything really came together with the first film, and I just don't know how they can really improve upon that. And especially music is so identified with the
Hmm.
original film, and I'm kind of like, what would they do for this one? That would really set it apart and be able to meet the bar that the original film.
Taylor Swift.
Oh Anyway, but I will say what I've heard is that Henry Cavill has wanted to do this movie for a long time, but he's also wanted to do The Witcher for a long time. Granted, he did a good job with that, even though I had my reservations originally. So maybe, it'll be fine, but yeah. anyway, that's my commentary about that. It is a true thing though. Going back to that.
Thank you very much.
Back to you for show and tell. Our news.
Oh, just that I've continued to do some vlog or vidcasts with another colleague, Travis. Oh my God, Cecily. She's gotta go. Where we talk on Ride the Stream, where we have been talking about Lost. The interesting thing about that is we've been watching it on Netflix, and it is discontinuing at the end of this month. So we are going to have to find a new series to discuss. So I'm a little sad. We've only gotten through about half of the second season. So I'm not sure what we're going to do starting into the new year. I know that we've wanted to do some films and we are looking at some other series. One thing I am kind of curious about, which might be something that maybe he and I will do, they're going to bring back all the James Bond movies and have them available on Netflix. I don't know for how long, but absolutely every single James Bond film is going to be on Netflix.
Hey, did you do a book on James Bond?
Oh my God, I think I did.
Yes, you did.
Well, the influence of James Bond. It is not about James Bond.
It's a James Bond book.
No, got to be very clear about that because I've gotten reamed on Amazon, reviews that I thought this book was about James Bond, and it isn't. It's about his influence on a lot of other cultural.
James Bond!
Yep. So anyway,
edited by Michele Brittany.
Yay! I remember early interviews focused on that quite a bit.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if maybe it'll be a discussion with Travis, or maybe I'll just do my own vidcasts and go through each one and talk about them. I don't know. But anyway, back to Nick.
All right, I got some booty to show. Squid that button. You're collected in hardback for the first time. Oh, I've been getting the single issues, and I'm kind of behind on it. But we love Red Brown. Yor is a great movie. Probably one of my favorite sword and sorcery flicks of the 80s. But yeah, the hardback of it is now out. So I'm excited. And
I'm
then
excited too. That sounds like something I'll be questing for at one point or another.
And then finally, I just got this like a couple days ago. I did the Kickstarter for the Deathstalker comic book. So I got the hardback. It has like two different dust covers on it. I think there's supposed to be more stuff and they forgot to send it. I don't know, but let me open it up. But the Deathstalker comic book in hardback form.
And that's Boris Vallejo's art, by the way.
Yeah. It's the one that Slash had his involvement in. So it's
from the band?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm reading that and looking forward to hearing about the movie. I visited the Kickstarter. Didn't get it though. And then I heard nothing for for the longest time. So
yeah, there were two different companies doing two different Kickstarters. There was one doing the graphic novel and one doing the new movie. And I didn't see the movie Kickstarter, but I saw the comic book one, and that's the one I backed. So I do want to see the new Deathstalker film. I'm not the biggest fan of the Deathstalker films that I've seen, but but the new one looks good. It has I forget his name. He's a French guy. Daniel something. I don't remember, but he was in that movie we talked about last year, G2, the Mortal.
You mean Bernhardt?
Daniel Bernhardt or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's Deathstalker, and we like him. He's cool. He's like an Olivier Gruner. But I think he would be an okay Deathstalker. So
When he was a fight choreographer for that other movie, was it
nobody.
Nobody. Okay.
I mean that's his bread and butter is doing stunts and fight choreography now. So that's why, I think he'd make a good Deathstalker because he knows how to fight. But that's it for all my show and tell and news.
That's it for me too.
So, are you ready to talk about the warrior and the sorceress?
I'm
Oh
very
yeah.
ready as I'll be.
All
I'm ready to
right.
listen and to hear what both of you have to say and throw my 2 cents of in. And
So this got just re-released on Blu-ray by Shout Factory. I think it was last year. So it's our first time watching it.
Hmm.
So hold on, Cecily, you gotta give me my notes. There we go. All right, the plot. On a desert world blasted by the heat of two suns, Sellsword Kane, henceforth who will be referred to as David Carradine, travels the land in search of mercenary opportunities. He happens upon a village that is ruled by two warring factions, those that follow Zeg and those that follow the portly Balkaz. Both claim ownership of the town's only well. Currently, Zeg's men occupy the well, and they are cruel, whipping and killing villagers who want water. In Zeg's captivity is also the sorceress Nadja, who Zeg is forcing to forge the sword of Ura. David Carradine arrives in the town, gets acquainted with its priest, Bludge the prelate, and sees an opportunity to make some scratch. Carradine goes out to the well, defeats Zeg's guards, and offers his services to Balkaz. Kaz hires the mercenary, but plans on betraying him after he defeats Zeg's men in battle. David Carradine, of course, overhears all this because the villains in this movie are dumb. The next day, Zeg and Balkaz's men meet at the well, intending to skirmish, but David Carradine says, "Nope, you betrayed me," and he walks away. The two small armies retreat. A slave caravan led by the monstrous Burgo arrives to the town. Balkaz poisons their water supply, but plants evidence that frames Zeg. The slavers leave town, drink the water, and everyone but Burgo dies, who swears revenge. David Carradine watches all of this. Carradine sells this information to Zeg. Later, when Zeg and his men leave their fort, Carradine breaks in, steals a whole bunch of money, and encounters Zeg's prisoner, Nadja, who turns out was a leader of the Order of the Homerax, which Carradine was once a member of. Carradine frees Nadja, goes over to Balkaz's fort, abducts his lizard companion, and sells it to Zeg to use as a ransom. Zeg hires Carradine to his employ, much to the chagrin of his second in command, Keith. The next day, the two factions meet once again at the well. Zeg has the lizard monster captive and demands Balkaz leave the village. However, Balkaz brings out his own hostage, Nadja. How did he wind up with her? I don't know. A prisoner swap happens. Carradine frees Nadja again, fights a tentacle monster in the process, but Keith is able to deduce his treachery. During a feast, a four-breasted dancer turns out to be an assassin, gets close to Carradine, and poisons him. Carradine is taken prisoner, is super beat up by Keith and his men, wanting to know the location of Nadja. However, there is a commotion, and Carradine is able to sneak away by crawling out of the fortress because the villains in this movie are dumb. The next day, the two factions meet again at the well. They call a truce, but Zeg stabs Balkaz. There's a skirmish between the two factions, and then Bludge the slaver arrives and captures everyone. Meanwhile, Nadja forges the sword of Ura. David Carradine looks to be magically healed, and he goes out with the villagers at his side and pretty much slaughters everyone. Victorious, he takes all the money he accrued from being paid, bribed, and stole and hops out of town. In the words of the 90s iteration of the Kung Fu series, the legend continues. The end. So, Michele, overall, what did you think of The Warrior and the Sorceress? The Warrior and the Sorceress.
I'm glad I watched it. Because it has been on our list for quite a bit, quite some time. So I'm glad that I watched it. Yeah. There was some entertaining aspects to it. There was a lot of stuff that there were problems as well. So, can't say that I wholeheartedly recommend it, but and we'll discuss why in a few moments. But Nick, what did you think of the movie?
It was okay. I was this is one of those movies I was hoping for a hidden gem, kind of a little cult classic. It didn't quite deliver, but there's some fun to be had in it. Um, However, I wound up taking a lot of notes, so I guess it's going to be more interesting to talk about than actually recollect on. So let's just start with the issues in this film real quick. We'll get the negative out of the way.
Oh, sounds good.
I
Since there's a few.
There's as I hinted subtly at in my plot synopsis, everyone in this movie is dumb.
Well, the villains.
The villains mostly. I think
Mhm.
David Carradine also is a little uh, uh not as dumb. But and I think the dumbness comes from bad writing. Um, when I did a quick look on Wikipedia and stuff, this movie is basically a sword and sorcery version of Yojimbo, and then William Stout did a version of it, and then the director took William Stout's version and re-Yojimboified it. I think this is probably why it has terrible writing. It went through a lot of hands trying to both stray from the source material and then be like the source material. I don't know, but the end result is David Carradine basically spins the movie going back and forth. All the guards are dumb. They never notice him, even though he's like climbing a wall right behind him. He sneaks out of everywhere. He breaks into places like 5 times. No one ever catches on to him. Everyone betrays everyone. And I know we can probably attribute some of this to the bad guys being maybe egotistical, maybe cocky or too full of themselves, but that can only go so far. The writing in this movie is purposely making everyone oblivious, gullible, and dumb, so David Carradine can basically have free reign to go and do what he needs to do plot wise. I think that's the biggest issue in this film.
Yeah, I would also add to that, there's not a lot of character development. I think that whatever kind of lore and signposts with regards to who the people are, what is the folklore around the Hummerex and the sword, the planet, and just kind of, I mean, we can kind of generally get an idea of like who the bad guys are. They're obviously both trying to control the water, but a lot of the lore around the sorcery and the warrior are missing from the film, and I don't know if that got trimmed out of the movie, to stay within a particular time limit for the film or not. But it felt like there definitely could have been more signposts within the film that I think would have helped it. I think that David Carradine did fine in acting. I think it's other actors that are maybe not quite up to the task. And just and again, I would agree, not the best writing. So, trying to do with it what you can, and just not being able to really deliver. One thing that I do find rather interesting about this film is the Yojimbo tie. And I think it would be very interesting in next year in one of our conversations on our Thursday series, to go back and take a look at that film and talk about its influence, because it has influenced a lot of films that we do kind of come across. And I don't remember the Yojimbo, so I know I wouldn't mind, revisiting it or visiting it for the first time and having a discussion around that. And then, you know, I thought it was an interesting idea to play one village gang off the other. It just wasn't executed as well as it could have been. I thought it was kind of a neat idea, and in capable hands, maybe it would have done well if they had like used that as a plan, but then moved away from it and tried to add other sword and fantasy and sorcery items to kind of make it its own.
Yeah, the world is just hinted at in the film, and I think that's probably stuff that they could fix just by dialogue. It's a low budget film, but questions that I have after watching the film that tie into what Michelle brings up. It's like, what exactly is a homerack? Why does Zeg want the sword? How did things get to this barbaric way? They're all hinted at maybe there was some civilization in the past that's fallen, and that's why the world it is the way it is. Zeg wants a sword because I don't. It's just things that are peppered in the film, but they're not adding any flavor when they should be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I can add
Yeah.
something that is totally unhelpful, but it's a piece of information. Several clips from this movie appeared in at least one other sword and sorcery film, hinting
uh,
at a larger mythology. And the reason I remember that is I used this movie as a uh, like an encounter in a bigger campaign in fantasy role playing. So I had the situations and stuff, and I took information from the other movie that there were clips in, and built like a more cohesion to the plot of the Warrior and the Sorceress. So I remember I had fun with it. Like a mindless adventure that you find in the sword and sorcery game. But I do remember that there was another movie. There was Sword and Sorcery that had clips from this movie.
Wizards of the Lost Kingdom 2,
Okay, maybe.
which we haven't seen, but the Corman films are pretty, I don't want to use the word notorious because I actually like the practice, but Corman would film a movie and then all that footage would be incorporated into other films. He shot, Battle Beyond the Stars, which is a remake of Seven Samurai, and I know they said, "Oh, these space sequences look awesome. We're going to use them in every other Roger Corman film verbatim." um, but yeah, along with the characters, no one in this film's really likable. All the villains are caricatures. The good guys, we don't really get any story on them. I understand David Carradine's character is the stranger comes to town. We don't totally need his backstory. It's the Clint Eastwood type, but like the sorceress, like how did she get captured? Why is she so important? Why can she be the only one to do the sword? And the priest, why is the priest important? Why is everyone ignoring him? And then halfway through the film, they want to capture him. Um, it's just stuff that's just absent that, again, this is stuff writing could correct. The
Yeah.
elements are there, but it's not gelled well. And that I think that kind of is a big detraction of the film. It's hard for me to buy into a low budget sword and sorcery film if, the action sequences are one thing, but the characters and the actual plot. I mean, it's really hard to mess up a fantasy plot. You get the band together and you go and you save the princess or get the item or whatever, and this movie just couldn't do it, I guess. We needed character development. We needed the world fleshed out because the setting itself is actually kind of cool. It's very
Mm-hmm.
if you ever play Dungeons and Dragons, there's the Dark Sun setting, which is, a blasted desert world with gladiators everywhere. It's very Star Wars Tatooine-ish, but without, the Star Wars tech. So, it's cool to have, like, instead of just a normal fantasy world or a medieval world, to have this kind of scorched earth type setting, but you need it more than a setting. There's cool stuff that you could bring in that the movie just doesn't bring in.
Yeah, and I feel like the homages to other films such as Star Wars, Clint Eastwood is the stranger that comes to town, even the Kung Fu show that David Carradine was in when he was a younger man, all are nice nods, but it's not like they really help with the story development. And like you said, the locale is actually pretty cool. It was filmed in Argentina. I think part of it was at the Valley of the Moon or something like that. And it was actually an interesting locale, like especially with the opening shots when
Well, the
Carrie.
very, very, very first shot is the Star Trek
Oh,
Born fight shot. So,
yeah.
of course, 1 second to the film, we're like, we know where that is.
Yeah, we know where that is. Kind of like that Italian waterfall. We're like, yeah, we know that rock. And yeah, anyway.
I think kind of my last kind of complaint, and then we'll move on to the positive stuff about the film is I don't buy Carradine as a sword and sorcery hero. Um, at least like a big hardcore sword fighting. They call him the Dark One, and apparently he is so good. He takes on 10 men at the same time and kills them. He kills a tentacle monster single-handedly, and like it takes 20 men to kill him. I did that, and he's jumping all around and stuff, and I don't buy it. I just can't with David Carradine. And the funny thing is this movie is more of like a toga and sandal, like sword and sandal type film where, he's going back and forth playing sides against each other. So, the movie should be focusing, I think, at least on like intrigue and plotting and scheming and stuff. And you have a more kind of like thief-like character that would do something like that. And that's the part I think David Carradine could probably do well. But, this is a barbarian film, so I get why they're doing what they're doing. It just doesn't gel well for me. I like David Carradine enough. But, I'm used to seeing him in really campy B films like, Evil Tunes or Kill Bill, although Kill Bill isn't, a B film or anything like that. So I didn't grow up with Kung Fu. I know this movie is riding a lot of Kung Fu coattails. Um, but
I had difficulty accepting him as a superior sword master. He definitely is encapsulate the stranger that, like you said, rides on the coattails of the Kung Fu series. Um, but again, I think that if they'd done a bit more with the story, I think that in tweaking the character and making him more of a thief, that's the way he's had to be able to kind of survive as a warrior who's, he's really more of a mercenary, and he doesn't have the scruples, and yet I think we're supposed to see him in that light. And I just don't, I think they really had difficulty kind of mediating what his character was going to be ultimately. And I think that if they'd made a decision one or the other, and if they were going to go straight sword, um, then really work with him to kind of give him the cues for that. I do understand from reading Wikipedia, he broke his hand like a few days before they were going to start shooting. So he was right-handed. So he had to actually learn everything with his left hand, which probably, again, probably helps to understand like less of the fighting, and that it wasn't as, up to par as they were probably anticipating.
it's a lot like if you remember last year we watched that Dolph Lundgren film, In the Name of the King 2, and he got injured before that,
Yes.
filming started. We're watching this, so I'm like, Dolph Lundgren is capable of so much, and he's just sleepwalking through this film. And we talked about if he wasn't
Yep.
injured, this movie would probably be a whole much better. And I think that there's a glimmer of that going on in this film. If David Carradine was actually not hurt, and he'd probably be able to move around a bit better, use his proper hand, make the sword fighting look more convincing and stuff like that. So I think there is a little bit of that going on that hinders the film.
Yeah, because I will say, and I know we'll get into, some of the pacing, so I'll reserve my comments about that. I will say that one of the other things, and I mean, you can read about the film, and it does bear, this is a negativity, the gratuitous topless shots of all the women and the real lack of clothing on most of the well, all of the women, honestly. I feel like this was a guy fest as far as, making sure that all the boobies were out and at attention for the men to look at, and that they all had dental floss for the lower half of their bodies, so that you saw a lot of ass cheeks. So, I don't really appreciate all that. Especially when I got to bring this up since there's some false advertising here. This is the alternative cover, and I
That's
apologize
that's the
for.
movie poster cover.
Yeah, so David Carradine is like really buff, and he never shows that much skin. And yet, the women, let's see, she's actually got like a little top on. She doesn't in the movie. And I just think that, I think that there's a lot of gratuity there that was, you know, probably in an effort to help the film or something. I don't know, but yeah. I thought, yeah, there was way too much of that. It was so obvious that it was just like, yeah, I didn't much care for that.
I thought it
But
was
but I'm a,
awesome.
but I'm a girl, so
I thought it was awesome, but not for sexualness, but we always bring up the role of the body in peplum films.
Mm-hmm.
And
So you
and
get to say a lot about that.
I get to say a lot about how bodies are portrayed in this film. So the first thing, so we were talking about David Carradine, I just don't buy as a sword and sorcery like hero. The weird thing is the second in command villain, Keith, he looks the part of a sword and sorcery slash sword and sandal hero. He is shirtless through the entire film. He looks like a Deathstalker, Deathstalker 2 type character. His imagery is what you typically see like as a Hercules or whatnot. I mean, he's not like
100% definitely sword sorcery
yeah.
type of he is a model person. He's also for a little context, he was also the stunt cord I think he was involved with the stunts, but he also did the fighting choreography. I mean, this guy's beefy. And he spends all of his time without a shirt.
He looks like a young Kevin Sorbo.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what's funny is David Carradine, his body is masked through this entire film. Despite what the poster says, he is cloaked in loose robes and everything. So, not that I'm like, oh, we need to see a shirtless David Carradine, but that's kind of what the hero is in Sword and Sandal and Sword and Sorcery. They are topless barbarians. Except this film, it's the second command villain who embodies the imagery of the hero instead of the hero, which is it's interesting. I don't know
Yeah.
why it's interesting. It's maybe a subversion of what we kind of expect. We watch a Conan or the Barbarian Twins or whatnot,
Hmm.
but that's not David Carradine. His imagery does not fit with the type of character he should be playing, I guess, or that we would expect to see in this type of film.
Yeah, and in fact, the image on the front of the Blu-ray looks more like the second in command villain
Yeah, it does.
than it does David Carradine. I mean, it does look like David Carradine on the movie poster, but not on the Blu-ray. It is interesting because he spends, like we said, shirtless through it all, and I think he's the only fellow that probably wears the least amount of clothing through the entire film.
He's also the one that does really any action as well. He gets his one-on-one sword fight with Carradine at the end.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of fighting from one of the other villains, Zeg, but the
Yeah.
other villain is a portly guy, so of course he doesn't fight. Everyone else is wearing armor. So
Yeah.
I guess it's weird that if you think back to classic Sword and Sandal, it's the men who are all shirtless, but in this film, it's the men are all clothed except for one dude. It's the women who are all shirtless in this film, which is, I mean, yeah, I know it's done for, a sexual component, male gratification, but it does say something else that instead of highlighting the male body, we are going to go and highlight the female body in this film. And then they take it to the next level by having a four-breasted woman, which is funny that the poster of the movie may lie about David Carradine, but the poster promises a four-boobied woman, and it actually delivers a four-boobied woman, and not just like a cameo. She gets an entire belly dance sequence.
The gratuitous, well, not the expected dance sequence is her dancing, and I mean she does a fine job. I think that the prosthetics for the additional set was actually well done. There were other kind of prosthetics or makeup that was not very good on like two characters, and I was like, oh, that looks really bad.
As a side note, yeah, we couldn't tell if the slavers are them. They obviously have makeup on. I couldn't tell. Are they purposely supposed to look like masks because they're out in the desert, or are they deformed and that's the makeup, and they're actually like kind of orcish or mutants or something?
And she was very meant to be sexualized. A lot of the women, their bodies were on display, but they weren't sexual. And I don't think there was any sort of sexual moments other than I think with Belkaz, he has kind of a harem, and they're, obviously trying to give him pleasure. They're feeding him and things like that. And I think that's the closest that we get to any kind of sexuality
belly dance
situation
too.
Yes, and the belly dancing situation.
Yeah, they take the Deathstalker 1 approach. If you remember Deathstalker 1, Deathstalker, he partners up with another mercenary lady who chooses to go topless through the entire film. And we talked a little bit about that, how, yeah, sure, it's sexual imagery, but, she could put a robe on at any time, but she does it. She doesn't care. That's just who she is or whatnot. And I think this movie tries to go that route a little bit. So, like, Nanja the Sorceress, when she's in captivity, she's shirtless. And okay, so she's in captivity. That's why she's shirtless. It's, probably a little sexual abuse or something. I don't mean to say it as candy like that, but that's, that might be a reason for that. But when she's freed, she continues to be shirtless, even though her character at any time could put a robe on or a shirt on. So no, she is choosing to be shirtless. Now, we know production-wise, that's the director going, oh, I want to see some boobies in this film. But going in universe into this film, that's a conscious effort. The other women are slave women or poor villagers or whatnot. When she's freed, she could gussy herself up, but she doesn't. And I think that says a thing. I don't know what that thing is, but it does say a thing.
Well, I think there would have been more significance if the other women, maybe they had robes or something, so that the fact that she's topless had more significance. It's kind of like I think back to Starship Troopers, where Paul Verhoeven, was trying to create like a utopian, a society where the sexualness was taken out of it, basically. Like they were doing showers and everybody was basically equal. The problem in this movie is that there isn't some sort of context or understanding that that's what's trying to be put across.
There's no equality, that's for sure.
Yeah, and if Naja is choosing, or if that's part of her identity as the sorceress, then call more attention to it. Or, even with just a couple of little changes, there would have been more significance. Like you say in Deathstalker 1, where the mercenary gal chose not to wear clothing. That was her choice, and they make that distinction. It would be nice here if they made that distinction.
You bring up Verhoeven, and my mind went the other way. Because Verhoeven, if you think back to Starship Troopers, Total Recall, and RoboCop, one of Verhoeven, actually, I need to bring up Showgirls. Actually, Showgirls is even a better example. Is Verhoeven goes over the top. He goes like super violence to the point it becomes comical. And
Mhm.
Showgirls, he goes super over the top with nudity and sexual content that it becomes comical. I can see that in this film where the nudity is just so brazen, but also so just there that maybe it's kind of reaching for that level of what Verhoeven normally would do. Now, this director is a far cry from Verhoeven, but I could kind of see that reach if they went that way. It doesn't work, but I could kind of see that maybe.
But and if you think about if a different director had done it, like a Verhoeven,
Mhm.
how different would this movie look in comparison to what we have
It would be awesome.
versus what we could possibly have had if he had directed it? Because those kind of lines would have been clear, where there's a lot of vagueness.
The other thing to bring up is, I brought up earlier, the men are all clothed and armored in this film, but there's also a whole bunch of population of men that are grotesque. And we talked about it a little bit. Like the slaver guy has his face is either it's makeup to show that he's like an orc or mutated, or it's a really bad mask to show that he's wearing a mask out in the desert or something.
Oh,
But they're all grotesque, instead of being
yes.
hot
So,
ladies.
and you made the comment earlier about the Star Wars connection
Mhm.
and the Tatooine. In what are the
Oh,
characters?
Jawas. Yeah, the movie opens with Jawas.
So to me, I feel like there might be again kind of that nod because Burgo, his mask seemed like it was somewhat wrappings, and you can see the eyes kind of in the kind of like hidden in the back, and even his mouth, like you can see the mouth moving. So it's not like the greatest mask, but I do think that again it's probably an influence by Star Wars.
See, I, it looks like a mask, and that's giving. I think it's a botched makeup job to make him look like a mutant or an alien or some other type
Mhm.
of unique critter. It could go either way, and that's
Yeah.
unfortunately a detriment to the film is that they couldn't fix that. The other kind of Star Wars reference I would say is the Bal Kaz character is obviously a Jabba the Hutt type character, and he even has
Oh.
again a rotund lady that's in the nude silhouetted, which is
Mhm.
not something you normally see. And in fact, in Star Wars in Jabba's palace, he has a rotund slave woman that dances for him. So, even though all the women are running around shirtless and whatnot, they do throw in a what you normally would not see type nudity in this film, which I'll give it props for. That's subversive.
Yeah, I would agree with that because I did see like a lot of different body types
Hmm.
in this film. So there is, for being a mid 80s or something like that,
84.
84, there is some diversity in the various body
Mhm.
types in this film that you might not see in some of the other ones.
I think the next kind of peplum thing I want to bring up is the Sword of Ura. We talk about weapons in these types of films. Normally sword and sandal films, they're not magical weapons. The sword, club, cudgel, it's just a disposable item that the Hercules hero can pick up, use, dispose with, because, his strength comes within. Those are just extensive his strength. Sword and sorcery films introduce, the idea of magical swords. And some sword and sandal, like Clash of the Titans, which I will bring up more in a second here. But, there's usually, Thundar has his, sun sword. He-Man has his sword. There's always like kind of a special sword in a play, and this movie has the Sword of Ura. Um, it the main villain wants the sword forged. We don't know why, but he does. Naja eventually forges a sword, and she's like, "Hey, David Carradine, you could chop an anvil in half with this," and he does. But that's kind of the extent of this magical sword. It comes down to there's a battle between David Carradine and Keith. Carradine has the magic sword. The villain doesn't, and all of a sudden there's an upper hand that happens. The villain gets the magic sword. Carradine is able to still hold his own with a normal sword pretty well. Eventually gets the sword back and wins. And that sounds kind of convoluted, but I guess what I'm trying to say is for a magic sword, it doesn't do anything. Even in the hand of the hero, are the hand of the villain. It's just a sword. And that's not a bad thing because, like when we talked about with Clash of the Titans, both the original and the remake, the
Mhm.
original, Perseus could not do all the things he wanted to do unless he had the gifts of those magical items, the magical sword being one of them.
Yes.
While the remake, he shuns all the magical stuff. He's able to get far without it. So, this battle at the end where, the magical sword, flips between David Carradine and the villain, brings up, is the sword really magical? Even if it is, David Carradine's own inner strength is enough to still best the guy with a normal sword instead of relying on the magic sword. So maybe it's a lot like Perseus from the remake. Or it's just interesting that they introduced this magical sword thing, but it functions like just a normal sword, I guess. And that's kind of important because it helps establish the type of fighter David Carradine is. Is he really just that godlike of a fighter that magic sword or no, he's still going to get up the one up on you? Or is it something else? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. And
It's
and
it's
I
weird.
I I think it comes down to, again, because the story itself has passed through a lot of
Mm.
different hands. I think that's probably a plot point that got missed. And maybe they just kind of ran out of time, but I do feel like that was a missed opportunity that they could have done something to elevate the storytelling and created more folklore around this sword. Other than the fact that Zig wanted it, it seems like if he'd gotten it, it wouldn't have really done any difference anyway.
Right.
So is that like, trying to read and mediate the understanding there? It's almost like, well, is the mythology wrong? Is it a lie? At the end of the day,
Bad writing.
yeah, that's what I really
The,
think.
the only thing I can think of with the magic sword is the day before David Carradine gets the crap beat out of him, so much so he has to crawl around everywhere. And again, because all the bad guys are written so dumb, he's able to do this. But
Yeah.
the next day, when this big fight's going on and Naja has the sword forged, he's good to go. So did like Naja use her sorceress healing powers to make him good, or is it maybe the power of the sword she just forged has healing powers that gives him strength, or
or
our
an,
plot?
or an immortality of some sort, or longevity
Mm-hmm.
of life beyond what is normal. Yeah.
Again one of those missed opportunities that better writing could have filled this gap in with no change to this low budget.
Yeah.
These are all, I think, that's the thing I think holds this movie back is its faults are all so easily corrected with just a couple one-liners here and there to, oh yeah, the homework there, they were, a clerical order back when this world was not a desert but a thriving kingdom, and the sword of Ura has magic powers that grant these are all things that you could just have a character say as exposition and it would just band-aid the thing, we're good to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do want to bring up though, because this was shot in Argentina, Corman went down there and they shot a whole bunch of sword and sorcery films. There's some Deathstalker in this film. I am 99% sure that the court of Balkaz is the same court in Deathstalker. And the corridors that they run around in and hide in are the same corridors in Deathstalker 2 that they run around and hide in. I am positive on this because it makes sense. You're going to reuse the sets and stuff.
Yeah.
And that may seem like a demerit. I don't think I get joy out of seeing that type of stuff because I'm like, I know that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do want to point out the movie does have small details that I think help flesh out the world. There's a scene when the slave caravan comes into town and they actually have a slave tied to one of the wagon wheels. And so while the wagon's turning, the slave is going, he's just stuck to it. It's a cruel thing to do. And it's just a minor thing. No attention's brought to it. It's just happening there in the background. But, those are the things that you could do to help flesh out your world. This little thing, it's a gag, it's a visual gag, but it also shows, hey, these slavers mean business. They'll tie you up like that. So it's like they had some neat ideas there. I don't know. That's really all I gotta say. That it's a interesting sword and sorcery film to think about its depictions of bodies for sure. Um, it's interesting in that, it is a take on Yojimbo. There's been a lot of those. I know Sergio Leone did one. I saw the Bruce Willis one, Last Man Standing, where it's like a gangster version of Yojimbo back in like the Depression era.
Hmm.
But those classic Akira Kurosawa stories, there's a reason why, Hollywood swooped in like, let's take those and turn them into westerns or sword and sorcery films because they're really good. And so, how do you replicate that without blatant copying it, but also at the same time not dropping the ball like in this one? Because
Yeah.
I feel like with this better writing, this would have been a really good hidden gem of a film.
Oh yeah, I think it could have been could have stood with other films of the early 80s that were sword and sorcery, and this could have made a mark along with those others.
I would say, thinking excluding Conan because Conan is a big budget film. When it comes to low budget sword and sorcery films of the 80s, I would place this film above Deathstalker 1 and 2, but way below The Sword and the Sorcerer, the Albert Pune one, and way below the Barbarian Twins one, because that one is fantastic.
Mhm.
That I know that one's goofy, but I love that one. That one is great.
Well, and again, part of it is you've got clearly delineated heroes and villains that are well written and
Motives for everyone.
motives for everybody that's missing here. Yeah, I think you really do have to have some well written characters that help with the sword and sorcery.
I give it a begrudging half thumbs up. Not
Okay.
quite, not quite.
Would you recommend it?
I would recommend it because you can say, have you seen this movie with, it's like Total Recall, except instead of 3 movies, it has 4. And people would be like, oh my God, I have to check that out. I have to see it to believe it. And the movie does deliver on it. So I'm shocked that it actually delivered. It even delivered on the tentacle monster. It didn't deliver on the David Carradine part, but
Well, and there was even some sort of lore around that particular monster.
it's the protector.
Yeah, but they don't really, again, a missed opportunity. So I can't really recommend it unless you're really hardcore and you want to look at other films that have been inspired by Jumbo, or you want to look at kind of the flip side, what was not working for sword and sorcery type films in the 80s, that were low budget or you want to know Roger Corman's work. So, yeah. Well, I know we're getting close to the end of the hour. So we do humbly return the torch of knowledge back to our illustrious and kind host of the show, Hercules. We
Humbly accepted. Thank you. Um, in addition to knowing what's coming up next for you guys, not people can contact you, I'm just going to ask one quick question to make a statement. In the Conan Adventure television series with Ralph Muller, there was an episode that dealt just with this issue. Conan in the series and in the movies had the Sword of Atlantis, and Sword of Atlantis had all this mythology around it. So another barbarian that he knew from years ago, Savan, I think his name was, uh, tried to steal the sword of Atlantis because then now he would have the magic sword and all the power that came with it. And Conan made the point of pointing out several times and proving that it's not the sword. The sword is a magic sword. Yeah, it has legendary history and people think a lot of it, but it could be any sword. And
Mhm.
he proves that. So I was thinking of that as you were going over the point in your presentation. And thank you. It's been many years since I've seen this movie. and I enjoyed listening to it and brought up a lot of memories. Even after years, the characters are still etched in my neurons. So to accomplish that, I was able to visualize everybody you're talking about. So, what is next for the scholars from the Edge of Time, and how can people find you and connect with you?
Oh wow. We're starting the new year. We'll be bringing back our HP Lovecast podcast. We'll be doing an episode on the movie Deadly Spawn. So we'll hopefully have that in January.
Well, and I would have to say, I think we're going on 10 years with scholars because I thought we started in
some, something like that.
2016
It
or
is something
something.
like that. It is something like that. because-
I think we're getting close to a 10 year, which is crazy. I know, yes, along with you know, HP Lovecast, obviously things that we want to do here. Oh yeah.
Well, we're close. The first time we appeared on Voice of Olympus was November 6, 2017. So we're
Okay,
going
so
for 9 years.
So we're in our 9th year, which is just kind of crazy. Something that I'm actually, this is more of a personal goal, and that's related to the fact that the Odyssey, directed by Christopher Nolan, is going to be coming out this next summer. And I would like to make it a goal of mine to read the Odyssey before then, because I
Awesome.
don't think I've ever read it. And I really sincerely would like to have a better grasp of the various characters, and particularly seeing, since I was watching a YouTube program that they were showing a map of, where different things were happening. And I know that we watched a film not last year, but maybe like the year before, that kind of follows the same sort of story and the challenges.
We watched the Asylum version of Troy.
Yes. Yeah.
We've got a couple Odyssey derivatives, so
Yeah.
if we want to watch some more Odyssey films before, I'm gonna go, because I'm not a historian. I'm just gonna go into flat out Neopeplum knowledge. I know people. I've seen some discourse where people are like, "Oh my God, Christopher Nolan, the way he's shooting this isn't historically accurate," and I say, "Ha." You think a lot of the movies we watch up there are historically accurate? No.
No, but anyway, that is a personal thing for me, is that I really like to be able to read it and have a better grasp on who the different gods and humans, and just a better understanding of the connective tissue with regards to the Greek mythology and things like that. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to us talking about next summer when the movie comes out, because we'll definitely want to discuss that.
Yeah, we'll try to catch that in theater for sure. On IMAX, because that one's getting IMAX screenings, and I know there's a mall in Southern Phoenix that's getting stuff for that. So
cool. Yes, so we're definitely going to be doing a lot on that, I'm sure. So as far as where people can find us, I'm on Facebook. I have a website that I haven't been keeping up. Maybe 2026 will be the year. I'm not really big on social media, but I am trying to change that a little bit in this coming year. I also have an Amazon page, author page, so everybody can go and take a look at that. And then Nick, your social media?
I was looking for that Troy movie real quick. I'm at nickdiak.com. That's where I publish a lot of essays, news that involve Michele and I, giant index of all the podcasts and vidcasts we're on. So yeah, head on there. I'm hoping to have more essays for 2026. I was proud of myself. I did a little better than one essay each month for 2025. So I'm hoping to do even better on that at my website for 2026.
Thank you so very much. I will be making some changes in 2026 to some of the programs, not yours. Yours are awesome. But I'm tying everything together a little tighter, and I'm declaring another Age of Heroes. I did this many years ago in New York when there was a crisis because there was a digital divide growing, Eventually, Bill Gates solved this by giving libraries computers, but until he solved that, we started a computer center in downtown Brooklyn. It was free, and we had all sorts of people involved in that one. So right now there's a healthcare crisis that we're anticipating and that is actually going on. So I figured that'd be something to tackle. So that'll be the central theme. And I as soon as I have more information now, right now I'm doing my bullet points. I'll be talking to everybody, and nobody's required to get involved, but if you want to, it'll be fun. So that's where I'm with that. Thank you. I'm happy there are conversations that are going on for almost a decade, and I look forward to the next decade up ahead. You guys are incredibly awesome, and I'm very blessed to know you. So thanks again for walking me down the nostalgic lanes, and I wish you all the best for the year coming ahead.
We wish you and the viewers the best for the new year, and we'll see you in January.
Mhm.
To be determined what we'll be talking about, but it'll be something fun.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so very much.